I'm Steve Ellick. And that's it. I don't know what else I was going to say. And this is the review of the 2025 Audi Q6 E-Tron SUV. This is Audi's newest EV, which is a 5-passenger SUV that currently slots above the Q4 E-Tron and is set to eventually replace the Q8 E-Tron. It has a bit more of a traditional exterior styling than its competitors, and it's a little bit reminiscent of Audi's own Q5, which is the gas version, although this is about 4 inches longer, 1 inch wider, and 1.5 inches taller than the Q5. The Q6 E-Tron is Audi's first vehicle to use the Premium Platform Electric, or PPE platform, and this architecture brings 800-volt charging, which in a DC fast charge setting can charge up to 270 kilowatts. Audi claims that this can charge the vehicle from 10 to 80% in about 21 minutes, which is really closing the gap on charging times. The EPA estimates a range of about 275 to 321 miles, depending on the trim level you buy. Our trim level is estimated at about 295 miles. With this Q6 E-Tron, Audi is targeting luxury SUV buyers or Audi loyalists who are looking to get into their first EV. Here's what we bought. For our test program, we bought a 2025 Q6 E-Tron Quattro Premium Plus. The base price is $65,800. Options include the Premium Plus package, which gets you adaptive cruise control, augmented reality head-up display, a heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, and a panoramic sunroof. Also the warm weather package, 20-inch wheels, and various other accessories, totaling $8,585. With a destination fee of $1,295, the total came to $75,680. Given this is an EV, this is probably the most important part of this video. And as I mentioned, the EPA estimates range for this Q6 E-Tron at about 295 miles, although our testers only got 190 to 226 miles in recent winter temperatures. Another focus is that 800-volt architecture is extremely important, and it brings rapid DC fast charging. And an interesting part about this vehicle is that there's a charge port on each side. You have a DC fast charge port and an AC charge port on this side. And if you go to the other side, there's a AC charge port. What's convenient about this is that you could really just pull up anywhere if you're using an AC charger. You don't have to think about which side to align the car with. Now, the first thing you notice when you get inside the car is that before you can even get comfortable, you're met with a bunch of these authorizations that come up on the screen that you have to remove, and then another one, and then another one. And likely, these would probably not even happen if the car was... And then the radio turned on, and this always defaults to the same exact radio station. So even if I had my phone hooked up right now to Apple CarPlay, it still defaults to the radio, and then I have to navigate to Apple CarPlay to change it back to my Spotify account. So the defaults when you get into this car is you get in, you get 3 authorizations, the radio turns on, the climate turns on no matter what. It's just an overwhelming experience when you first get into this car. And I'm sure some of this is customizable, and if you sit with a dealer for an hour and a half or 2 hours, maybe they can help you work through these problems. But it's sort of one of those things where, why do you have to deal with this stuff when in other vehicles you don't have to? Another thing I want to note is I sat into the seat and then everything turned on. I didn't turn it on with the start-stop button that's actually here. And we tend to like that. We like that there's a button to turn the vehicle on, whereas in this one I just sat into it and everything started turning on by itself. So with that said, the infotainment system has its positives and negatives. In front of you, you have a 11.9-inch display, and the center display is a 14-inch touchscreen for infotainment, climate, navigation, and other controls. If you were to get the special option in certain trims, the passenger would get a screen here as well. In this case, you just get some piano black trim. But anyway, back to the infotainment system. It is a bit cumbersome and complex to use when you first look at it. I mean, there is a lot of menus in here. So if you want to go in and look for something, there's a lot there. But on the right side, all the climate controls are at the bottom here. So they may not be physical buttons, which we like to see, but it's at least always there. You have your seat heat, you have your seat cooling, you can turn on the temperature. And something that I like about this infotainment system is there is this customizable little quick access menu to the side here. So you can put in, if you want Apple CarPlay, you put that into this little quick access menu, the radio, navigation, whatever. And if you want to go even deeper into that, you pull out this screen here where you can access options or ADAS, lane keep assistance, that kind of thing. That is pretty well organized. And the system itself, it's pretty intuitive to use once you learn it. It's also responsive, which is great. I mean, you press a button, it happens automatically. And we don't always see that with touchscreens. So that is a plus point. Now, interior fit and finish, I already mentioned the piano black gloss trim everywhere. And it's sort of like other automakers got the memo that that was going out of trendiness, but it's everywhere. And it kind of, you touch it and it gets all messy. But there are some interesting parts about this. I mean, Audi really has a first-rate, build quality about this. You open the door, it has a solid clunk to it. The ambient lighting is interesting. You customize it. If you put your blinker on, then it actually lights up green. It's just a pretty cool feature. But a lot of testers noted that they didn't like how monochrome it is. It is just a sea of black in here. And while it may be quality, soft touch materials, it is just not really characteristic of a $76,000 vehicle. So some other controls here, except for the window controls, all the what are normally physical buttons are in this one little panel on the driver's side door. And that means your lights are on here, your mirror controls are on here, as well as the locking function, which is interesting because there's this blank panel here. And on the passenger side door, you still have traditional buttons for that. The gear selector is a little bit different. Nothing new these days. A lot of vehicles are moving to shifters like this, but it is a little awkward that the parking brake is the park as well. So you have to know that. A lot of testers noted that they do love the one pedal driving in this vehicle. So you put that into the B with the actual shifter here. And then interestingly, I love this feature about this car, especially because it's an EV, is the paddles behind the steering wheel are what control the regen braking. So you can actually apply more or less. And after dealing with all of that, you could finally get comfortable. And that is true. Nearly every tester was able to find a comfortable position behind the steering wheel. There's a thigh extender that goes in and out. The armrest comes up where you can customize it perfectly to wherever you want it to be. And the bolsters are actually very comfortable as well. So it's almost like they hug you a little bit. It is easy access in and out of the car, but this bolster is a little bit high here. So I could see this wearing out pretty easily as you get in and out of the vehicle. The rear seats are about as comfortable as the front ones. They have a good amount of firmness to them. Passengers in the rear seat will note that there's ample headroom and actual footroom under the seats, but legroom is a little bit limited according to some of the testers. Overall, 2 adults should be fine back there, except for in the middle seat. One of the testers wrote, no one over the age of 8 will fit in this seat. Historically, small item storage in the cabin has been a problem for Audi, and the Q6 improves on this a little bit. There's this cubby up here where you could put your key, you could put your phone in a designated cell phone clip, and then you also have this under armrest storage cubby as well. So there's definitely more, as well as the door pockets, which are deep, so you could fit a lot into them, but they're kind of narrow, so you really have to dig for whatever you put in there. For larger items, it's a pretty standard trunk for an SUV, nothing out of the ordinary. You can fit a couple boxes in here, and then you have this extra storage down here as well, which is really saved for your EV charging cable. If you need to fold down the second row seats, you can do that from here, and then you could put even more stuff in the car. But overall, pretty good trunk, but nothing out of the ordinary for this class. Fortunately, this Q6 E-Tron has a lot of standard safety equipment across all trim lines, including automatic emergency braking, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic warning, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, rear parking assistance, and driver attention monitoring. So that was our review of the Audi Q6 E-Tron SUV. There are some downsides to it. You get in and it's a little bit of a boring experience. There's nothing that special about it. Overall, it lacks that Audi character to it. What you do buy this vehicle for is because it's an EV and it's on that 800-volt architecture, which brings DC fast charging at a rapid pace. And the one-pedal driving is fantastic in it. Audi has finally brought that to its electric vehicles. This Q6 E-Tron is definitely better than the Q8 E-Tron that it's going to replace. For more on EVs, visit consumerreports.org.